Hello, humans. Welcome to Audio Face Favorite podcast about music news, culture, and things that mostly matter. I'm Sean, and you are muted. Yes,
I'm
and it's
I'm
still
Dan
muted.
and I'm Dan and I'm learning how to control everything. So like I was just talking about how I didn't know how to like
Count me
live
in.
no, I know how to count you in. I just don't know how to let you know that I'm counting you in. So
Yeah.
that was fun, but you figured it out, so that's good. What I also don't know how to do is to like fade the music down properly just because
Mhm.
usually I do that in the edit, and now I am doing that live, which makes it easier for me, but that doesn't
Do it
matter. This is
live.
Audio
Fuck
Face,
it.
an irreverent podcast about the music news and music culture that mostly matters. I'm Dan. As you introduce yourself, you're Sean.
Like, all right, part 2, I guess. Episode Boogaloo. So this week,
292 of this bastard.
this is true. So we've got music for y'all. So we've got 3 records that we're going to review. We've got Prelude to Ecstasy by The Last Dinner Party. We have Everybody Can't Go by Benny the Butcher. And then we got Plastic Death by Glass Beach.
What other podcast? What other podcast is putting those 3 albums together? None of them. That's what you're telling me.
Fucking
Plus,
really random shit. And plus we got Grammaroonies that are still currently going. We've got arrests and other things that went on in there that we will definitely be talking about.
yeah, the
We got
Grammys are
some
going hot in the paint right now. Let me just tell you that. The Grammy Awards, which super fast, 20 seconds. Audio Faces has been, is, and always will be better than the Grammys because back in 2019, 2020, I want to
I'm
say,
still pissed about
the
that.
chief of the Grammys was trying to defend, the weird results that come from the Grammy Awards by saying, listen, a lot of people give us flack because they don't understand. We here at the Academy, the people who decide the Grammys, will listen to a number of albums, a lot of albums, not all of them, but sometimes we as the Grammys will even listen to a full album to understand what we feel about it. And I'm like, dude, every single week, whether we like it or not, we hear every album that we've listened to one, at worst 1.5 times, at least twice, and often more times than that, to be able to tell you how we feel about it. That's the Audio Face guarantee. That's always what you're going to get from these 2
Yep.
lazy asses who can still do a podcast. And that's why we're out here 292 episodes in, still doing it, still out here, still talking about defunct NHL teams, but more on that later. Also, what we're talking about is super deluxe extreme rap beef. Like, yo, we've been talking about rap beef for a couple of weeks, and
This is the year rap beef.
Thank God, honestly.
We might need to have a
We
Stomp
needed
Him in the
this.
Nuts award.
Lord willing. But I think that rap beef is good. And what we talked about last week with last week's rap beef, we were talking about Nicki Minaj, Megan Thee Stallion. We're going to be talking about that more, but we've got even more. We've got a little revisiting from the Mos Def Drake beef that we got, and we've got a whole new one. More on that later. But I was talking about the Megan Thee Stallion, Nicki Minaj rap beef, even especially as it was winding down, as less of rap beef and more of like rap tofu. But we still got we still no hate, plant-based on the show here, both of us, no hate. But it didn't really feel quite like genuine rap beef. I think we have a little bit of context thanks to some of the investigative reporting that the Audio Face team has done, and thanks to some of the developments that have now happened. I think we have a conclusion to this rap beef, but we definitely can upgrade this to a rap beef as it happens. The Meg Cardi B thing. Anyways, no singles. We should really come back and maybe like reconvene next week, like during the week, as we're figuring out what singles we missed maybe in January that, Sean and I personally listened to, but like we didn't do on the show. And then what singles are coming out next week to really bring you that. But we are alive and kicking Kung Fu Chicken here on Audio Face. And 2024, it's turning out to be another one of those world is terrible, music is great kind of years. And so I'm rather excited about it. And so kicking off with the festivity, before we kick off with the festivities, rather, I want to remind you that to support Audio Face, to support everything we're doing at syndicate23.co, YouTube to support us directly through the YouTube platform, that's coming soon. But if you're watching on Twitch, then please become a Twitch, Prime subscriber or subscribe at the tier 1, tier 2, or tier 3 level. That helps us out a lot. What helps us out even more, because Twitch takes a frankly obscene cut of profits from any creator trying to make money off of their platform, is by joining at the official Syndicate 23 website, join.syndicate23.co. Not only do you get, it's a little bit more for the base level, but you're not only getting audio face, but you're getting power report. You're getting 2 shows in one. That's a 2-for-1. But also, as you increase in levels, you start to save a lot of money, and you're getting a lot more content, and more of that money is going to directly what we're doing here at Syndicate 23. So we definitely appreciate that. Twitch, I get it. It's convenient if you're watching on Twitch. Go ahead and subscribe there. That'll definitely help us out a little bit. But if you really want to help us out, syndicate23.co. Go there. All the memberships are lined out. Go sign up there. We really, really appreciate it. And every little bit helps. And so with that, also thank you to the Audio Face team, Sean, who is on here every week, especially, but also Austin, who contributed a lot of work. Week especially, Kyle, who has contributed a lot of work to especially a lot of the past weeks with our concert coverage, Peter, who's helping with publishing, and all 3 of them help with publishing in some different way. And thanks to the whole Audio Face team, thanks to the whole Syndicate 23 team more broadly who works on Power Report. And let's get into let's do a little bit of a wrap up of the previous week, and then let's go into the other one. So Sean, I'm ready on your call. Once you say hit it, I'm gonna do it.
Hit it.
Rap beef, nigga.
Punk ass motherfucker.
Jerry nigga. Big nigga.
Fuck that.
Stomp 'em in the nuts. I'ma stomp 'em in the nuts. Stomp 'em in the nuts. I'ma stomp 'em in the nuts.
Never gets old.
Rap beef, nigga. Okay, so we've been it's like peak rap beef season, and honestly, I'm gonna get to my minor rant, which I think Sean and I both both agree with rather about rap beef writ large. But top line, rap beef is good for the game.
Rap beef is
rap
back,
beef
baby.
Is good. Rap beef is back. Rap beef is good.
McRib
rap
is back.
Could be supported. The real is back. The Vil is back. And when you have rap beef, I guess I'm getting into it right now. When you have rap beef at a time when otherwise the rap genre is very stagnant as far as new artists, new flows, and energy with even those, up and coming top artists, rap beef really helps us shuffle that around a little bit. Sometimes it doesn't totally. I won't say the Drake Pusha T rap beef really
That's my favorite.
Changed the trajectory. Oh, my favorite by far. I won't say that rap beef, even though it's my favorite recently, it hasn't changed the trajectory of rap music. It just helped to solidify and confirm trends that we already saw, specifically with, Drake's overall downfall as the quote unquote. I wouldn't say he was the king of rap. Again, that's literally another rap beef we're going to talk about literally right now. But he was one of the top, players in the rap game. It was impossible to mention the genre of rap as a musical genre without at least talking about Aubrey Drake Graham.
Blackface Toronto's very own Aubrey Drake Graham.
Blackface Toronto's very own Kid Hider, potential Kid Diddler, allegedly, allegedly. There's a lot going on with Drake here. Either way, if then, we have a lot going on with Drake. And so we're not going to talk about Drake now. What we've been talking about, the big rap beef has been Nicki Minaj versus Megan Thee Stallion.
Yeah.
So for folks who are just catching up here, Sean, how would you catch people up to this rap beef?
Oh God.
What happened is how you started.
Like, where do you even begin with that one?
I mean, it's hard to choose a beginning point, but I think the closest beginning point is that Megan Thee Stallion released Hiss, which was, Hiss, which was a diss against Nicki Minaj, but it wasn't just, a sneak diss. It wasn't like a come out of nowhere diss. This is a long time coming, considering a lot of the, frank, Jim Rome smack talk that Nicki Minaj has been lodging towards Megan Thee Stallion for years. And, this is not
for a while.
Yeah, and it's not unusual from Nicki Minaj, because Nicki Minaj has been, ever since the Lil Kim days, which more on that very soon, has been sniping at other female rappers. Because, again, we'll get to that very quick. I mean, so let's get into it honestly, right? So
let's do it.
Megan Thee Stallion released Hiss. Nicki Minaj released, I forget what it was called. It was like Bigfoot. It came out like,
Yeah, I think
it was
Bigfoot.
funny. We were talking about this comeback, response record even before it had come out on last week's Audio Face, because before we had recorded it, by the time we had finished record, the song actually came out about an hour and a half after we had
Oh
actually finished
shit, I
recording,
didn't
right?
realize that.
And honestly, when you like listen to the episode, viewer, and when you like listen to that thing and you like consider the time in retrospect, you can't tell the difference, because not a single thing Sean or I said is inconsistent with what happened with that record. And interestingly
Right, yeah.
enough, the only thing like Sean and I didn't really comment on naturally was like the musicality of whatever disc record was on, because like we hadn't heard it. But the musicality wasn't that good, but the overall the overall line, even before Nicki's response track had come out, was that, hey, look here, Meg's kind of got you in a corner here, and Nicki's gonna have to come out with like an Drake has an illegitimate son level of rap beef in order to be able to get herself off the ropes here. And let me tell you, she didn't even come back with like an open-handed slap. Like, I would have respected the backhand a little bit more, but she didn't even, like, Nicki couldn't even hit with the open hand on this
Right.
response. It wasn't lyrical, it wasn't musical, it wasn't good, it wasn't funny, it wasn't clever,
It was bland, and like she can do better is the thing.
and it read as desperate. Yes, she can absolutely do better. I mean, I'm
And she
not
did it on her
one
damn record.
I'm not one, especially not us on Audio Face, are folks to grade rap beefs off of album sales or like record
No, fuck
sales.
that.
Because again, Pusha T's the better rapper, Drake sells more albums. But Pusha T's the better rapper, and you're blind, deaf, and dumb if you believe in that order, if you believe that Drake won the rap beef against Pusha T.
No, like that literally was like, hey, pay child support. Like we wouldn't know, like we wouldn't have
We would not
what's
have
Drake's last album?
Adonis. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, we would not have For All the Dogs.
Yeah, we don't have For All the Dogs. The album cover wouldn't, the Stanley Donwood fake Stanley Donwood album cover wouldn't exist were it
us
not for
having
Pusha
to
T.
watch Drake try to convince his kid
Dude,
that
he's
his
the
own
greatest of all
father
time.
is worth a damn. It's like,
Dude,
we
that
wouldn't
is my
have that. We
that's
wouldn't
my
have that
first.
without Pusha T forcing Drake to overcompensate. And so that's a very, I mean, what do we say on Audio Face? That's fun for the whole family. All right.
Absolutely.
So we didn't get that from Nicki Minaj though. Even though, again, I'm not even gonna weigh in on the idea of, is Nicki Minaj better than Megan Thee Stallion as a rapper? I think, much like comparing my very much older brother to myself and my family, he's got a head start. Like, he's been in the game for longer.
Careful
Nicki
now.
Minaj has been in the game for longer. All right. Like, I don't think it's an exactly fair comparison in that situation. But even then, just like looking at this rap beef, no, Nicki got cooked. And not only did she get cooked just in the confines of how the rap beef was working, but also you look at the big picture and it's like Meg's biggest hit, which was the biggest hit out of all this rap beef, was that your husband can't go to your kid's parent teacher conference meeting.
Because well, he's kind of a convicted felon. Why?
Well, if then.
Look at the in the words of Tiger Woods, it's on the police report.
Play it for the jury. Stare at the mugshot. So yeah, like, case in point, that song was released. It really doesn't change our analysis from the past time. I will point out, Azealia Banks, challenger approaching, like Super Smash Brothers style. Azealia Banks came into the room and she, spit in, and in typical Azealia Banks fashion, it was like a 20-minute long Instagram stories expired in 24 hours diatribe. But here at Audio Face Investigates, thank you to Austin, our wonderful producer, was able to record that and get that for me. And to give you the gist of it from what, Austin, they, and I were able to kind of go through in that recording, was basically that, Azealia Banks, here's the thing, like, top level, Azealia Banks is not a journalist. She's not someone who vets her sources, but she has sources and she kind of knows what's going on. But she's also an interesting character within herself. All right. So
Yeah, yeah.
I'm going to try to present this with a grain of salt that I have just given. But her take is that a lot of what's going on with Nicki right now is because of the fact that Nicki Minaj always wanted to be a Rock Nation girly, and she's not. Now, Rock Nation, of course, is part of Jay-Z's record label. It's,
The Jiggy
actually,
Man.
I'm gonna sneakily add this to the rundown because it's actually a major MBW story, but she's part of the chain that follows along with Universal Music Group, which is a massive
Yeah.
music company. And Jay-Z coming out of that rap era of the 2000s, he was one of the first rappers to not only like establish a label and a successful label, but to flip that label into something that ended up becoming a multi-million-dollar industry, not just for him, but for other rappers to follow in. And so Meg Thee Stallion is, of course, like, one of the patron saintesses of the Rock Nation thing. And Nicki Minaj never got that. And this is the part where, you take this with, as the usual Azealia Banks flair. There's some speculation of Azealia Banks considering that maybe Nicki Minaj has some daddy issues. And she's like, oh, Jay-Z is like the daddy that Nicki Minaj never got or never had. And so by seeing that rejection, not only from, I'm going to name some artists right here that Nicki has beef with, Lil Kim, Cardi B, Megan Thee Stallion. Not all these folks are Jay-Z related, but all these folks seem like threats to her in
Yeah.
rap hegemony and rap
Mhm.
legacy to whatever men they're trying to prove themselves to. And I don't think that any of the women of rap, and we've talked about this on the show, I don't think any of the women of rap should ever feel the need to prove themselves
No,
to
fuck
any of
that.
the men in rap outside of the context of like, okay, one of these men's has a record label and you're about to, time out of your initial contract and you're trying to get up there, right? But even then, like, if you do your own thing, like if skipping ahead really fast, I think if Ice Spice just does her own thing and continues to do her own thing, or Latto for that matter, whatever man who owns a rap record label will pick her out no matter what happens, unless they literally nosedive like a Max 8 737 Boeing, like immediately for their careers. But that Azealia Banks thing was definitely interesting. I don't think it's like fully consequential, the whole thing, but I think it's definitely interesting for the fact that like that Jay-Z angle and Nicki
Yeah.
Minaj, not only is she like mad about not getting that Jay-Z thing, but she's releasing Pink Tape 2 and she's like going mad on tour while, again, quoting Azealia Banks, she's also cooking like corn cobs over the stove on her IG lives. There's some speculation that she might be struggling a little bit with the finances. There's some speculation that she's, especially from Azealia Banks, that she has some, drug or other addiction issues that she needs to work through, and hope she does well with that. But this seems to be, again, it's clear. Like, let's call it, unless you disagree here, Megan Thee Stallion obscenely won this rap beef. Now we're just kind of looking to the side that, like, okay, Nicki Minaj, you released Pink Friday 2. This is a great record. But somehow, even despite this record releasing way more numbers and doing way better numbers than, frankly, anything Megan Thee Stallion's ever done, Megan Thee Stallion is still perceived to be a better rapper, and she's still perceived to be the higher ground. Sorry, I've been talking a lot, but super last thing.
No,
This
yeah.
was the week that Megan Thee Stallion achieved being the first, like, major woman in rap with who's graduated from college, who's won multiple Grammy Awards, and who just signed a new contract with her new record label, where not only does she have a very, favorable contract, but she, we're 28 years old, right? She's our age. She is a 28-year-old Black woman, owns her masters to all of her recordings before,
She
during, and after.
doesn't have to pull a Taylor Swift and re-record everything.
We will not be getting
We'll be getting
Megan's
Scooter
version of
Braun.
Hot Girl. Yeah, we will not
Yeah.
be getting Megan's version of Hot Girl shit anytime soon. And I think, like, that is an incredible, like, remove Nicki Minaj. That's an incredible feat. for a woman, for a black woman in this industry, considering what we've seen, what happens to women and to black women in the music industry, what happens to all artists, especially. But it gets even worse because it's society. It's going to be worse for women, and it's going to be even worse for black women.
Yeah.
And super last thing, because I'm speaking as a black man during Black History Month, the beginning of Black History Month.
This month.
But like, Megan Thee Stallion has gotten criminally little support from the black community, considering that she's been like, okay, people are targeting you on the Nicki Minaj side, and like, women are saying you're not about it. And then the Tory Lanez things happen, and people are saying, oh, you're lying. And then all the misogynistic men in hip hop and rap, which is, the bulk of the rap community, unfortunately, who are fans online, all goes free Tory, Megan Thee Stallion's lying, and all that stuff. Despite all of this, she comes on top. And so, I'm not, again, it's no name, ride or die for Dan from the internet. You can take that from the bank. But I've got such a profound respect for Megan Thee Stallion, not only what she has achieved, not even getting a Forbes 30 under 30, which she's like, destined for at this point. Not that that matters. But the fact that she achieved that, not only with the onslaught of such lionization coming from the internet, but also with the relative amount of grace that she's honestly handled it through. And like, I think that's admirable, that's respectful, and that is, to conclude, everything that Nicki Minaj has never been and never will be. And I think deep down, that's part of her jealousy.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing too is, especially right now, like Meg seems like such a bigger person with all of that, and then the baggage and stuff too that Nicki has carried, especially with her husband and all of that, and is very unapologetic for, and her husband is very outspokenly unapologetic for his actions. It stains that in a way, right? Even with the big album release of Peak After 2 and how good of a record it was, it's now kind of almost stained it in a way, because you could see of, oh wow, like you're really you're really dragging out something that you don't need to. So, and it makes you look bad. It doesn't make you look good. It's really like showing how bad of a character you have, like you are and you have been for the past few years and stuff. And like, this isn't the last thing. Like, we've been talked about a couple other things, right, with her and her husband, that we were like, it's not a good look, Nicki. So, and yeah, it's just, she doesn't need to do that. She doesn't need to bring that up and everything, and to try to drag somebody down and all of that. So it's not worth it, and it really doesn't make her look good. So, and it definitely shows, like, at least gives me too even more of a respect for Meg Thee Stallion. Like, the amount of shit that she's gone through the past couple of years is just a lot, and the fact that she's done all those things, right? Owns her own masters, got her degree, basically proved in court, and got Tory Lanez locked up, and stuck a middle finger to everybody through all of that.
Tory Lanez is somewhere in the middle of California right now, just like going through it.
In Folsom Prison, and it's
I may be in hell.
But at least I ain't in jail.
Yeah. I agree with everything you said. Naturally, like, I love everything that Meg Thee Stallion managed to go through. And I think now we get to focus. If I can be critical of Meg here a little bit, it's like, okay, now we got to focus on your career and
make a better album.
Yeah, we got to focus on that. Your singles are hot and your singles are fire. A lot of your hottest singles, though, are also features writing off of Cardi B and like another artist. So, all right. So, like, I know you can
booming and get some more producers. Have some fun.
Listen. And I'm not even gonna go into that whole like rumor of Megan Thee Stallion and Lil Juke, whatever their relationship is, right? But I've heard a lot of albums where Meg Thee Stallion is just rapping. Right, there was Sugar, but I think there was also some other mixtape for all the hotties. That's right,
for all the hotties, and then the one that had Body on it too in 2020. I can't think of it.
Yes, record. And so we've seen
there's good work there.
We've seen her get to cook. I believe Nicki. I believe Megan Thee Stallion can cook. I just think you just need to do it consistently on a record to the level of Pink Tape 1 or 2, even, and Nicki's done. That's it. That's gone. Like she's an old head now. She's she's
Damn.
Conway the Machine. She's Benny the Butcher, who we're gonna be talking about on this
Benny the
podcast
Butcher.
as relics of the time. All right, and you know what? But I'm just mean like, I'm sorry. Azealia Banks mentioned the fact that Nicki Minaj dated Nas because Nas at the same time as they were
Who
dating
rags Nas?
was on Rock Nation. All
That's
right.
true.
And this is a number of one of like instances that Nicki Minaj has tried to get her way into that Jay-Z sphere. There's even an instance where like Jay-Z, Nicki Minaj, and Beyonce were performing. And at least in Azealia Banks's case, from her view, Nicki Minaj was relegated as to like not even the third performer, but like the fifth performer on that entire thing. And so she's got some beef from that. I get it. That being said, I always think Nicki has been unnecessarily nasty. And I'm not even going to get into the fact that like this isn't Nicki's fault, but Nicki, you have the kind of fans that would track down the address where
God.
Megan the Stallion's mom is buried and try
That's
to go after that and attack that, right? All right. If there is a single Audio Face fan who would ever do that, I would probably stop the show. I'd be like, whatever we're doing here is wrong.
Yeah.
Nicki Minaj is not about that because she's been about this terrible harassment for decades now. So, you know what? It's like really not worth like addressing that much. Before we move on, we got a lot of comments, surprisingly, because I yelled a lot the last time I was on.
That's probably why we're getting comments, because people want to watch this. They're like,
a lot of people want to
see
watch
Dan
the
yell
show.
at Bam.
Well, I'm not going to yell at Bam. I'm not going to yell at Sean. I've actually relegated the amount of time I'm going to yell on this show. And believe it or not, we've already passed through half of it, and I didn't really yell that much. So we'll see what happens. Also, generally, this is the music podcast, which exists so that I can be less chill from the politics thing. And Sean and I's first and only argument was like the first day we ever were friends, and since then it's been pretty chill. So like we don't really fight that much, honestly. Yeah. Anyways, Corn Popper Press says, I've never caught a music stream, mostly because I don't know any of the artists. I assume Ice Spice was a Spice Girl, and I got sad after I found out I was wrong.
Well, Posh Spice and Ice Spice. Oh my God,
well,
that's fucking funny.
Well, thank you, Corn Pop, and thank you, Felipe, who is also shout out to Austin very much as well. I'm gonna take a photo of this and send it to Austin so that they know that they are recognized. But yes, thank you, Austin. Recorded that 25-minute long thing, and like I didn't ask them to sit through a 25-minute long Azealia Banks story. Let me tell you, you can tell that they're my friend because there's no other reason anyone else would do that. And yeah, Corn Fiber Press saying, I do know of the beef, and I love Dan, so I love Dan and gang, so I had to jump in. See, Sean, you're gang. That's all good.
Yeah.
And then last one, let's see. Benny the Butcher, aka BB.
Dude, that's why I laughed. I saw that. That's why I laughed.
Yo.
I'm like, I'm gonna hold my tongue, but
Yo, worldstarhiphop.com. Let's see. Were there anything else? No, those are good ones. No, thank you. Yeah. Thank you for commenting. That comments help the algorithm, so keep commenting. We'll try to respond to them as we can during the show. But yeah, ultimately, the end of the Megan Thee Stallion, Nicki Minaj rap beef. Winner, Megan Thee Stallion. Does this? We haven't done this specifically in Audio Face, but what happens when you lose a rap beef as far as the awards go? Is that another little bitch?
You gotta get nominated for the Stomp 'em in the Nuts award.
Oh, okay, all right.
Because you got stomped in the nuts.
Stomp 'em in the nuts. All right.
Nominated for the inaugural Stomp 'em in the Nuts award.
Because like, I don't think we've ever had so many rap beefs before
and this is
gotten
February.
out of January, a month where we usually only do 1 or 2 episodes. So the inaugural Stomp 'em in the Nuts award. Make sure one of us remembers this, because you know, as usual, the year will go by very quickly, and we'll need to like come back and remember this in the future. Anyways, we have another rap beef. I will send it whenever you want me to.
Hit it.
Rap beef, nigga.
Punk ass
Oh,
motherfucker.
Jerry
Big
Torres,
ass nigga.
stomp
Do
'em
big
in the
ass
nuts,
nigga.
stomp
Fuck
'em
that.
in the nuts. I'ma stomp 'em in the nuts, stomp 'em in the nuts. I'ma stomp 'em in the nuts.
All right, part
I was,
two.
I was leaning like a cholo right there. No, Rat Beef Part 2, and but wait, there's more, and in fact, there's even more after this. This is 2 out of 3 Rat Beefs. I promise we'll get to
Let's do it.
albums. It's my favorite part. But Ice Spice versus Latto. This is actually the hottest, newest Rat Beef, and I'm not saying that because of any thirsting for the either of them. I'm just saying that like Ice Spice and Latto. I'm really not. Any next word I say is just gonna get me into trouble, so I'm just gonna say,
Just
Ice Spice and Latto are both sitting. So top of the line. Before I explain any of this, Rap Beef is good. Rap Beef is good for the game. The rap game needs Rap Beef because, as we're going to talk about in the State of Music conversation in a couple months from now, like probably 1 month from now in March, rather,
usually it's March. Yeah.
rap is on beyond life support. Like those tings coming from the little machine that are usually like, a consistent one beep, 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 1 beat per minute. Like I'm hearing 1 beep every 5 seconds. Like beep.
It's like if I fuck up and it says
Pull up.
pull up when
Pull up.
anytime on my plane yells at me and says pull up.
Pull
that's
up.
when-
R word. Pull up.
Pull
R
up
word.
R word. Terrain,
Yeah.
pull up, pull up. That's what I hear.
Yeah. It's really it's kind of that bad for the rap game right now. That being said, I don't fully believe that. I think drill is a really exciting part of the rap genre, and I'm really excited to see how that grows into something different. That's been a thing I've personally loved as a a British rap enjoyer, but I think as that has slowly started to spill onto and come from realms on the East Coast and the Midwest, from Chicago and Detroit all the way down to New York, where you have, I think the most notable one would be Pop Smoke out of New York, rest in peace, right? Drill is coming to America and is coming in a big way, and with that you have a whole new generation of rappers who surprisingly, again, like shout out to Chief Keef in Chicago holding it down, but Chief Keef has been doing the game for like 10 years from now. Right now, the new ones coming out of the game are Ice Spice and Latto. Latto with Big D Energy that came out, which was like a cover of some other thing that came out last year, which we reviewed that album. It was fine. Like it was
Fine.
it felt very phoned in for like a rap performance, and I didn't really see Latto as the other than rap's baby doll, as the way rap tends to look at women a certain way. Like she fit that persona very well. Who fits that persona much better, in my opinion, is Ice Spice. Not just on looks, but the fact that she has come up with a lot of more rap songs, better rap songs, and bigger rap songs. I'm talking about Munch, which took over everything. Her collaborations with Pink Pantheress with Boy's a Liar. Her, collaboration with friend of the show Nicki Minaj in the Barbie movie, right? Like this is like Ice Spice is clearly on one, even without I think Like is the EP that she's released recently, and that's been a culmination of a lot of the songs she's produced. But even without putting out a full length album, Ice Spice, not to rhyme, but in the zeitgeist, in everything, Ice Spice has proven herself to be a really big artist. And so this is to say, this is what Rap Beef is supposed to be all about. You got 2 big artists, new up and coming artists who are coming together. One thinks the other is not giving them the respect that they're due. Same thing, vice versa. There's not a lot to prove here. In fact, never mind. There's a lot to prove here because both of these are up and coming artists, and either of them could land the kill shot. Like,
all right, they can, like either one of them can really, really break out and become like the next big female rapper, right?
And they already, both of them,
they kind of already are, but like
I
to the
personally
level
think
of
less
Nicki,
so Latto, but yes,
yeah, right. But like I'm saying, like of the latter two that we just talked about of Nicki Minaj and Meg The Stallion, right? Almost household names at this point. Like those
Cardi
two
B.
now can become the next Nicki Minaj and Meg The Stallion, respectively, right? Cardi B, so on and so forth, right? They have that potential. So the
And let's
beef
also
is
be
natural.
yes, and let's also be clear that like unlike a lot of shows, I don't want to make it seem, which it gets a lot to be in this rap beef, that like there can be only one. Uh
Right.
in politics, which I'm only allowed to talk about politics for 2 minutes because I've been I've been relegated to the penalty box. So I'm not going to do it here. But like in politics, I hate the idea of zero sum because I think that a lot of like there can be multiple winners. Zero sum is the idea that if one person wins, that comes at the cost of another person losing a little bit more. The more
Right.
you win, the more another person loses. In a non-zero sum situation, 21 Savage and Lil Yachty and Free Young Thug and a number of other different artists can all still,
Cap Scott,
and
Future, Metro Boomin, they'll all exist.
all these artists can exist and collaborate and get along and flourish the rap game in general. Rap is not zero sum. I think that too often the female version, the female side of rap music, as in I hate to anyone who uses female tends to be a misogynist or like a manosphere type person, but like
Right.
women's rap, which also feels kind of reductive because I honestly believe that most women are rapping better than most male rappers right now.
Oh, absolutely. Like, don't even think like that's the case.
Yeah. So like all that aside, for the newer audio face viewers, I think that unfortunately we're still kind of at the point in women's hip hop today that we were kind of in 90s and aughts hip hop where it felt like a zero sum game where like it can either only be Jay-Z or 50 Cent. Right? Like it can only be like these two.
Kanye or whoever, right? Yeah.
I thought we were over that when like Cardi and Meg The Stallion were releasing Whopper after Whopper after Whopper, Whopper, double, junior Whopper, triple Whopper. They were just
on
releasing
God's flat green earth.
they're releasing banger after banger, right? Nicki Minaj complicates this a little bit, but I think the style's already gone. Now we're going to the Zoomer rappers, and this thing between Ice Spice and Nicki Minaj is sorry. I'm confusing them because I'm a racist and it's Black History Month. Ice Spice and Latto have been beefing for a little bit. So this culminates in Ice Spice's newest song, Fart, which is okay. You know what, Sean? This is the time we can have this like mini argument here. You gotta give Ice Spice credit as a lyricist.
That's all right.
Sean does not necessarily feel me, and I totally get it. All right, I totally get it. Because if I were to come on this non-existent show in 2015 and say that SoundCloud rapper 21 Savage is actually got bars, A, I don't think I would have made that argument, and B, you definitely would have shut me down. Rightfully so, right? But my argument is that you need to give,
until she releases something that I won't until she releases something, right, that says is that like that I like the lyrics of and I can bop to and everything, then I'm gonna hate on it, right? That's just
you weren't bopping to the Barbie movie soundtrack. Hey man,
it's all right. It was all right. I mean, Lizzo ruining it because reasons.
I mean. Never mind. Lizzo.
That's a separate disappointment conversation.
And I think there were the Barbie the Barbie soundtrack was for the Grammys, so we can talk about this for 10 seconds. Ryan Gosling, who I hate, rocked it. Tame Impala, who walked his way into the recording session, and he was like, "Wait, this is the Barbie movie? The Barbie movie? Okay. Wait, so what am I doing? I'm doing like a transition between different worlds for, honestly, this sounds a lot like Tame Impala, so let me hit it.
It's like, I guess I already have something, so here it is.
He's like, no, wait, actually, what you're describing is incredibly trippy and makes sense for me as Tame Impala, who, as you know, is just one guy. So I will work that out. That's a meme on the internet.
Right.
Anyways, where are we getting at? So Ice Spice released Fart, and again,
you got black on both sides and you got Fart.
I'm impressed. I'm impressed. So again, and we're going to get to, this is a long time, but we're going to get to the Mos Def Drake rap
Oh
beef
my god.
after this, and we're gonna get to it soon, I promise.
And then we got albums.
And then we've got a word show. All right,
Ah.
we'll do it. We'll do it. We'll do it. I promise. I'm gonna speed it up. I, you know, separate from that conversation, like yes, let's go back to what we were talking about in WhatsApp earlier before we started this podcast. If we're talking about good female rappers, no. Like I will be honest, I'm grading a lot of people on a curve, but not in a different way I would grade men, in the sense that like I know who my favorite male rappers alive today are, and they are not the same ones who I would say are like the quote unquote like best male rappers. Like I think Kendrick's a pretty good, like really solid rapper, but I think Earl Sweatshirt's better. Like low key, like in my soul. But that's a weird dichotomy to put against, because Kendrick Lamar has decided to be, like Kendrick Lamar, and Earl Sweatshirt has decided to not be a major, rap pop celebrity and just keep doing his lyrical miracle spiritual shit like all over in Africa. And like that's totally fine. And in the middle we have Baby Keem, and we are not the Wayans. All right. And so
And we got two phone Baby Keem. We got Vince Staples.
we got two phones Baby Keem over here. Like we're all good, right? Like it is not, we are fine, we are chilling. That is not the issue. I said all that to say, I think if we're revisit this conversation in a couple years from now, Ice Spice is going to be a better lyricist. She's going to be a more powerful lyricist. She's going to have more singles and more albums under her belt. And we're going to be able to see that this is her style. Like she uses, really quick words. She is able to be rhythmic and lyrical, much like her predecessors in Migos and Atlanta style trap were, but allow that to adapt to a drill soundtrack and make it sound like a bop, make it be a hot girl soundtrack like Meg the Stallion does, like Nicki Minaj and Lil Kim did way back when, and adapt that style, which, is pop friendly and can maybe seem a little bit shallow, but also turn it into like some vicious dish records. And so, yeah, you get some disses towards Latto here. And this is in response to some disses that Latto has had in previous tracks to Ice Spice, which is in response to previous disses that Ice Spice has had to Latto. And this has all been this sort of thing that like, yeah, Latto and Ice Spice are coming up around the same age, around the same time. They are both seen as like the hot girl rappers heir apparent, whereas Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion are pushing their 30s. God, we're old. Ice Spice and Latto are in their early 20s. And so there's a different generation we're talking about. God, we're old. And they're fighting for that. I think Ice Spice so far is doing very well in this. I understand that like her lyrics are not for everyone. She doesn't have that respect yet, but I don't. Everything that everyone's saying about Ice Spice and what she doesn't have, I don't see that as though Latto has it, right? Like Latto, I came by so underwhelmed from that record, and I don't see how anyone else who like rationally listens to that also looks at like, anything else Latto has released or anything else Ice Spice has released and says, anything different.
Yeah, and it's especially we'll see in the next, even throughout the rest of the year, to see what kind of comes with this, because it's still in the early stages of it and early stages of their career and all of that. So, yeah, I mean, there's not much because I don't really listen to them that much. I mean, old head Sean over here, so I'm still like really trying to get up to speed with both of them in that regard. So, but this is why
I don't expect you to have listened to Offset's last album where Latto, threw out Munch as a lyric trying to throw out to Ice Spice, but yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, I ain't listening to nothing Offset right now. So,
noted anti-Semite Offset, but we're not ready for that.
We're not. You're not ready for that conversation. That's Audio Face after dark. That's what that is. All right, so let's go to the.
Sorry. So overall, at this point, Ice Spice is winning the beef. I would say Ice Spice is winning the beef.
Yeah.
Also, someone Corn Popper Press says not to be that guy, but what is Idiocracy? That's a documentary. It's not a movie. That's a
It's not a
documentary.
yeah.
I'm gonna need you to search that up real quick.
You need to do you need some required viewing on that, sir.
Corn Pop for Prez, catch me on the burp check. I am just drinking water. I am out here. I'm just drinking water. But he also says, "What's your favorite male rapper? Was it the Senor Sweatshirt guy?" Okay, so like,
Dead or alive?
MF Doom's not dead.
The correct answer. MF Doom is sipping on Muay Thai in Belize, sir.
Belize to
That's from
Belize. All
Okay.
right. But I can't name a favorite rapper. I can name a ton of favorites. Kendrick, Baby Keem, Earl Sweatshirt,
Vince Staples.
Vince Staples, absolutely. Check out the Vince Staples show premiering right after Valentine's Day. So, I don't know what you're doing the night of the 14th, but clock strikes midnight. You log on to the old Flixaroonie. I don't know what you're doing in your bed. Maybe you're already there. I don't know. It's Valentine's Day. That's how it happens. You watch the Vince Staples show. And that'll definitely ruin the mood. No, it'll definitely make it great. But no, like if I could name one person off this list just out of Long Beach pride, check out Vince Staples. But also Earl Sweatshirt and the whole. I mean, honestly, you can't go wrong with the Odd Future diaspora.
Yeah.
Any of the artists who came out of
Odd Futures are any of them are great.
and outside of rap, Sid the Kid with the internet, they're going to be they're in the lab. They're working on a record, might come out this year, next year.
Not to get confused with Sidney Crosby, but yes.
Yes, and not to be confused with Dan from the internet. I am not from that internet. Honestly, it's a better internet. So yeah, no, everyone who's come out of Odd Future who is still creating music, obviously Tyler the Creator. I mean, like Tyler the Creator is like, needs no mention at this point, but everyone, Earl Sweatshirt, Sid the Kid, anything else that they have done that Odd Future Collective has done, Earl Sweatshirt, Vince Staples was not really part of Odd Future, but he was like in the associated range. All of them, bangers, great stuff happening right now. And yeah, that's all I can recommend. I'm not gonna recommend that Miles. I'm not gonna Martin Luther King had a dream. Frederick Douglass.
Stop.
I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna do that.
Oh no.
We finally, because Sean wants to kill me at this point. Final rap beef. Let me know.
Hit it.
Rap beef, nigga.
Punk ass
Oh, Jerry Torres, nigga, big ass nigga. Stomp him in the nuts, I'ma stomp him in the nuts. Stomp him in the nuts, I'ma stomp him in the nuts.
All right, this is
This is the fun one.
this is a fun one for Sean. Yes, this is.
Speaking of favorite rappers, this was probably my favorite rapper growing up.
Oh yeah, this is one of those interesting times where like I understood that Sean was not your average Caucasian Mexican when I realized that he knew Mos Def, currently known as Yasin Bey. He has changed his name. And we'd been covering this a little bit over the past, couple weeks, month that we've been doing the podcast for this year, that Mos Def came out kind of guns blazing on a podcast. Go ahead.
Well, first off, my favorite soundbite of the year so far ever was, so he got asked a question, do you think Drake is hip hop? And he just goes, why did you ask? Why did you do this?
Oh, my favorite soundbite is when he just like he explains it and then he goes, I love shopping. It's great shopping. Mos Def is trying to, in the best way possible, say that the best Drake's music is worth is like
commercial.
When you're at Zara looking for like
when you're at Target.
When you're worse. When you're at Target looking for like a Goodfellow blazer that doesn't fit you, and you're listening to some like
the lapel is super fucking small and awkward, right? Also, you have the wrong title on here. It says Nicki and Meg rap beef.
There we go.
I got you.
There we go. Thank you. Your boy's still figuring out how the shit works. But yeah, like Mos Def. I mean, and Mos Def can speak on. So the main point that Mos Def and the person who was very clever in getting themselves on the board by asking Mos Def this question and then going viral based off of that question was, is Drake real rap music? And that brings that dichotomy. And hip hop is a better, exactly, because hip hop and
literally
rap,
what she asked, is Drake hip hop? And he goes,
yeah, and hip hop and rap, you can go into those meanings. You can go into those meanings, but let's talk about hip hop as we understand that meaning is. And yeah, Yasin Bey sighing and then going. My favorite part was when he just like was silent for a while. And it's like, yeah, it's shopping. We're all great. What happens when this all collapses? And like Drake goes from audio face to power. I'm sorry, Yasin Bey goes from audio face to power report in half a second. He goes, it's so great. We're shopping. We're having a good time. What happens when this all collapses? Like he looks dead.
That
in the
video
camera.
is amazing. Well, the thing is, so basically he goes like, pop or Drake is pop music, right? Like he makes good commercial pop music, but it's not hip hop. It doesn't hit like hip hop. It's commercial. You're gonna hear it at Target. And then he goes, I love shopping here, da da da. And then what happens when this all collapses, right? I mean, again, he made one of the
this
best.
all being sorry, really fast, but like this all being like pop and rap, coming together. What happens when the next thing comes on? Because we're seeing like TikTok show how, again, Miles and his like dumbass but somewhat catchy style of rap is like taking on. And then from the other side, we're seeing fundamentally, got that emergency alert. Like fundamentally, we flooding out here. I'm like, well, oh, my non-activated Pixel 6 Pro, like my old Pixel still got that emergency alert. That's
really
we out here. Okay. But like artists like Mos Def are speaking from a place where, Sean, learn them on Black on Both Sides real quick.
Oh God, where do you even go with Black on Both Sides? I mean, so I don't have to like go into the whole album. Just you have two songs that are required listening if you're gonna listen to Black on Both Sides. You got Mr. N-word,
at least,
and Mathematics. The two hit like hit him with.
I have a 2.5 suggestion. Mrs. Fat Booty.
Oh yeah, you gotta go Miss Fat Booty. That's true.
Miss Fat Booty, and you got Mr. Nigga, and then you got Mathematics by Mos Def.
Like those are
Yasin
like
Bey, formerly known as Mos Def. I mean, those are rap fundamentals. If you are going to appreciate and understand this, no, if you're watching this, because it's Black History Month, I'm requiring you after this stream,
top to bottom, Black on Both Sides, just
to top to bottom, look up the Mos Def album, Black on Both Sides, released in 1999, right?
Yeah, 99.
Like literally, oh man. We talk about sometimes like having the time to sit down and do 50 of the aughts, 50 of the 90s. Dude.
50 of the fuck me. Cause you got OK Computer in this bitch.
Like never mind that, but one of the most seminal works of music, period, let alone rap music, is Black on Both Sides by Mos Def.
It's just
that is generational learning. My brother taught that to me, and I'm teaching that to my nephew. Like, this is generational learning. This is it's a political, like, it's why I love doing this podcast. It's the perfect intersection of
politics and music,
mainstream music, and deep state leftist politics.
Like,
not like Mathematics alone, but definitely listen to, I mean, top to bottom, but Mathematics, Mr. Nigga, and Mrs. Fat Booty. I listen to all those songs randomly throughout the day, still in 2024.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? Which is to say that, yeah, Drake's got a ton of, Drake's got Hotline Bling, Drake's got any number of songs. Everyone's got a favorite Drake song, all right. But the Mos Def point that Drake was making is that Drake doesn't make music for the struggle. Drake doesn't make music about really the struggle of anyone but Drake. And hip hop and rap music has been, and trap music is a lot of things, right? But a lot of it is the tradition of, that goes back to the original form of hip hop, which is why we delineate hip hop, rap, trap. A lot of it goes back to the tradition of street poetry. a lot of it goes back to the tradition of Black folks and Latino folks and eventually down ass white folks too, and Asian folks too, like speaking on, and Native Americans, all folks people, like speaking on their experiences of oftentimes the hood. But I think even in Eminem's case, right, like the hood versus like the struggle, just like coming of age, building Strowman. Yeah, I mean like Detroit, right? But again, like we're not having this fight, but Eminem's got a different fight when he's rapping than Mos Def.
Absolutely,
of
that's
course,
the whole point
right?
of the goddamn
but like Eminem still gets respect, not just because he's rapping from stuff that's serious, but also because he's a lyrical. I mean, he's better than Mos Def, like lyrically speaking.
Yeah,
if you want me to start to get on that,
he
Mos Def is great, and like Drake is not even in the same stratosphere as Mos Def, but like once you get to Eminem, like, we're talking about like the Aesop Rock, we're talking about the MF Doom, like how many, like we're talking about the Shakespeare level of like how many words can you put into a short amount of time, and that's like a skill of rap and just the English language in general that Drake's not touching. And but like again, Yasin Bey's point was that, I'm sorry, this is taking a long time. Yasin Bey's point is that Drake is not real hip hop because he's not speaking on the real struggle of, quite frankly, African Americans, because he doesn't fucking know that, because he's a Canadian who was raised by a black father who was never in his family, and a white Jewish mother who let him dress in blackface while he was performing, while he was getting up there doing his career, and then let him be up in Degrassi all how he was. So like, it's a totally different vibe. He's a child star versus black on both sides.
That's what
not the same. And that's totally fine. Drake, that's totally fine, but own it. Drake was fighting it and feeling upset, which brings me to the only political time I get to be in this podcast. And you know what, Sean? I'm going to make it quick. New rules. New rule.
Back.
I hate Bill Maher. I hate Bill Maher, but new rules. This year, on Audio Face 2024, maybe beyond, maybe not. I haven't decided. But Yasin Bey has won this rap beef and won this point. Not a single bar needed to be dropped because they've already been. Yasin Bey has his entire career and Drake has his. Yasin Bey / Mos Def has the point that he made, and Drake has literally no other point that he's made other than like Millie Bobby Brown won't sleep with him. Like from Stranger Things, right? Like there's no other point that Drake has really made in his music over the past 10 years. All right. So this was like one of the driest, but also like wettest rap beefs ever. And Drake still lost it, which not only does this nominate double reverse nominate Drake for the Timothy Daniel Poole, the second. How do we refer to that? Like, because he's run it twice, and we need to every single time note. Okay, the Timothy Daniel Poole squared noted little bitch award. Not only Drake are you nominated for that, but any rapper of any state, young, old, rich, poor, old or new, who
white,
defends
black,
Drake,
Asian, Mexican, whatever, I don't give a fuck. Whoever you are,
if you are yellower than the Simpsons, I saved myself, then you are still going to be nominated for this award. Because if you are defending Drake, if you are trying to if you're trying to stand on business as though you don't understand what Yasin Mos Def Bey was trying to say about rap music, and you,
then your head's in the sand.
You, like Inoli Choppa, who defended Drake after Yasin Bey's comment saying they hate this man so much, or if you, Waka Flocka Flame, says that Mos Def looks like a hater for rocking a dress during a Mos Def disc. First of all, that's African clothing, which is like a...
So then you're like double.
I'm actually going to nominate Waka Flocka Flame for the Hard R award just for that. And instead of yelling over Sean, that's going to be my extension of my rage for tonight. I'm nominating Waka Flocka Flame for an award that means you hate black people. Because Waka Flocka Flame... Oh, I stopped myself from saying a really bad TOS thing, but I'm just going to say this. Waka Flocka Flame, you hate black people. You don't understand black culture. And honestly, I'm going to trade you for Post Malone. At the
Damn.
All-Star game, I'm gonna do a mid-season trade. All right, like we don't need you. Waka Flocka Flame on Black History Month. You're off the cookout. You're uninvited. Get out. Get. That's why I'm about Waka Flocka Flame. Or just so you understand how serious I am about this, how you know no part of the rap game gets unsaved from this. Common.
I can't believe this one.
Common. Barack Obama's favorite rapper. Common. Vouch for Drake.
That speaks more than
which honestly also soft nominates him for a hard R, but if not for Barack Obama being president and like, you know, if not for Common visiting Barack Obama's White House in 2010 before Audio Face was even a twinkle in Sean's testicles, then of course we wouldn't do that. But like, so yes. But even Common defended Drake against Yasin Bey. I'm going to do the legendary first quadruple nomination for the Noted Little Bitch Award all in one. I'm getting them in quick, baby. I am going to get real efficient.
You got 4 right there. Bam.
Drake, Common,
Inali
Choppa, Waka Flocka Flame, and a dry Waka Flocka Flame for the Hard R Award, because if you're gonna say that Mos Def is wearing a dress, not only is that bigoted because you're trying to get some like, you know, Benny the Butcher ass like transphobic homophobia in there, but like that's African garb, dude.
It's like also, if a Scottish man's wearing a kilt.
I was about to say, so what if he's wearing a dress? Like Flea and Tom York get to, and I do not give a good goddamn. All right,
more power to them. I'm like, I want them in dresses at this point.
And you know what? Let it not be cultural. Let it be a dress. Let them be Toro y Moi, or let them be God, who am I? Eve's Tumor. All right.
Oh, Eve Tumor.
Let me. In the words of Stephen, I'm quoting Stephen A. Smith on Audio Face. This podcast has gone to hell. We don't care. We don't care. All right. And Waka Flocka Flame, you're a bitch. I could be much more angry, but I kind of
know what you're alluding to, and I'm glad you're not.
I almost dropped the hard R on Waka Flocka Flame.
You did,
but we haven't even gotten to a single. We haven't even gotten to a single album yet. And before we do, I want to read to a couple of different comments. Felipe Auguste, would you sell your Pixel 6? I'm supposed to trade it in. Actually, I'm supposed to trade it in. I have the Pixel 8 Pro, and I also have a iPhone for work purposes. I have the iPhone 15 Pro Max. So I have all the good ones. Is what I'm saying. I'm rich, bitch. Is what I'm saying. I'm not, but you know, it's weird. I like having the Pixel. It's weird when I let the Pixel 8 charge. I like having the Pixel 6 just to like watch YouTube and listen to podcasts and like not pay attention to my phone with my number in it. So I still like using it, although I really should send it back so I can get that like, you know, $200 or whatever. But you know, Pixels are great. It's all good. And there's a couple things on here that I definitely cannot put on the screen, but let me just say, Corn Pop and Felipe, you are going hard and I appreciate it. And no, it's not AT&T. I have class. Anyways, first album. Let's hit it. Let's go.
All right. So first album of the day, serving up Gary's beam. We've got The Last Dinner Party, Prelude to Ecstasy, 12 songs, 41 minutes long. Debut album for The Last Dinner Party. So they're a little burp check for myself.
Shauna, you're drinking tonight? Typical pilots.
It's the driest pilot ever. But meanwhile,
the FAA is under the chat.
Meanwhile, this is my 6th Americano. As I'm fucking the amount of coffee I drink.
No. Let me tell you, if you ever see Sean on a plane, that would be the most least possible drinking pilot you would ever see.
Pretty much.
Definitely. That's definitely not yours. You're in good hands. It's like I've seen a bunch of memes that are like the FAA when they find out you cried when you were 6, and they're like, it's like 30 police cars chasing you on a high freeway.
You have no idea, bro. It really is.
Oh, I was ranting about this to another person about the FAA's misunderstanding about like, oh, you take medication for a mental illness that you've been diagnosed for and you're like totally okay for it. Sorry, we can't do that.
You
You're all
well,
good, but you sneak flasks into the cockpit. Go ahead and fly, buddy.
yeah, exactly. Like it's so ass backwards, but they're not ready for that conversation. Um. Anyways, the last dinner party. They're a little indie alternative group from England, from the UK. So I believe they first started releasing music maybe about 2 years ago, I would say, but this is their first full record release. So I was excited for this one because I've heard a little couple songs here or there from a couple singles that they've released the past couple years here or there. So, um, and with this record, as I kind of talked about last year with going over like state of music industry and what's indie, alternative, all that stuff, what do I really want to have sounds, and we're getting that this year, right? Indie's back, baby. We're getting kind of this just newer-ish sound, just these more like rock, almost like rock ballads,
Can I
but are
just
more
say,
indie
like,
style. Yeah,
it's indie has always been one of the most like nebulous things to describe doing this music podcast
absolutely.
because indie can mean any different thing, and you can be really sure about what it means, just as Sean and I have been at any given time. And then in 2 years, you'll have to revisit that and go, no. And it's not that you're wrong. It's just that indie means a lot of things. Like the term indie means independent. So it used to mean like you're not attached to the labels, but you realize like a lot of quote unquote indie bands are attached to labels now. And then, subsidiaries of labels, subsidiaries, like etc. That happens. That reminds me to add. I'm sorry, but this is a super important story I need to add to the end about Universal and TikTok. So I'm going to do that at the end. But like you end up having indie groups that are tied in some way or another to really big record companies, and that's
Yes,
totally
absolutely.
fine, but like that means independent means something different. So I like it, and I think Sean likes it, because then you're describing a sound. And so tends to be rock, sometimes it's alternative. Generally an indie band is not a band, and we've done this in the Audio Face Awards before, where like even though they might have a quote unquote indie sound, if they've been around for 10 years, they're not quite indie. It's supposed to be something that feels fresh and new on the cutting edge of music.
Like, there's
And
very few that I'll be like, they're old, but they're indie. Like, BR can be that, like, described as that with the amount of avant-garde stuff that she posts and everything, right? Like, that can still be considered that in a way. But other groups like Arctic Monkeys or like, what bands am I trying to think of that
War
started? I
on
was in
Drugs.
War on Drugs. Yeah, that's a perfect one actually. War on Drugs. Yeah, right. Like they've been around for about 14 years or so. They started out as indie. Now I'd consider them more of alternative. Still love them though. Like great band, great group, made damn good music. So
Yeah. I mean, like, that is to say that this band, The Last Dinner Party, at least in Prelude to Ecstasy, feels, which is a lot of like, there's another indie record review this week, more on that in just a moment, but it feels more inspired by definitely the rock focus.
for
But
sure.
I was actually pleasantly surprised, because
Oh,
much in
sorry.
that description that I gave, yeah, I like it. But much in that description that I gave earlier, were like, a couple years ago, even 2 years ago, I think even Sean and I would have and have on this podcast described indie as something more like, especially back then, calling to late 90s grunge.
And they were
And
stuck
this
in that
is,
rut for like 3-4 years.
yeah. And you got to a certain point. I forget which artist it was, but it was like, Whitey McWhiterson indie face. I forget his name, but he was like he was just like a random like
Rex
indie
Orange
dude.
County.
Yes, Rex. Yes. And so
Yeah, I wanted to say it too so bad.
once again, Rex Orange County catches a stray on Audio Face. But like, again, like, indie had gotten into that point where it felt very much like a rut. And then you get to right now, especially kicking off in 2024 with an album like this, where it's like, oh, we're kicking into that other part of rock that on Audio Face we've talked about here and there, but like
Really
haven't
big.
dug into. But it's like,
Yeah.
it's digging into hard rock and bringing that out in like a poppy, fun way for the masses. And by the way, this is like a women-led band. And so a lot
All
of the
female
things you
led.
would think about like hard rock, where it's like men screaming at the top of their lungs, with like basically like shouty voice, and you don't hear a lot of like, tone or depth. You just hear like breathiness. No, and apply that to women. Like it is a totally, I mean, maybe not different and unique, but at least for us as music reviewers, at least for me, I'll speak for myself, unique and really interesting. And as a big come out for indie by a, pretty prominent band for this being their first record, divine. I love
I think it's
this.
fantastic
I'm
because
really
so
happy.
like well with my issue with I mean I can get into my indie rant, but I'm not going to because that'll save up for the save music industry music year. With um with Last Dinner Party, like a couple tracks, they pull from 80s sounds, almost like from The Cure, even Depeche Mode style rock. But they what they do is instead of just ripping that and then making the same like electronic beats and stuff, they use more of the rock sounds from the 80s and then put that into a record and then update it, modernize it, and put their own little twist on it. So it sounds fresh, it sounds new. And this is something that I'm glad I'm hearing as a sound, right? Because we've been having that sound in indie for a while of more of like the grunge, the 90s with a lot of bedroom pop sounds. I mean, the poster child of that's B2B and a couple other groups and stuff really
Japanese
did that.
breakfast, Japanese house.
Yeah, they weren't really grunge styles for Japanese breakfast and Japanese house. They were more like indie pop and stuff. And I thought even the Japanese house record last year, I thought was fantastic and a really good comeback record in a way. But with Last Dinner Party, they came out with just a painter of a record. The way it plays through, it's very, very fresh in a genre that I felt has been pretty stale for a little bit and needs to have more influences on it, right? I mean, you have your Wet Leg from last year and a couple others that I thought was starting to make that turn towards the latter half of last year.
Oh yeah,
And
we can't also like talk about 2023 without talking about the influence that Boy Genius had on the game.
absolutely, absolutely. I mean, and I think they did some stuff with the Grammaroonies, which we'll talk about in a second. They definitely were winning a lot of awards on that, which we'll talk about, and rightfully so, I think. And with the Last Dinner Party, you get like this beautiful sound that I've been wanting for a while. I wanted more of like this 80s rock that really hasn't been touched that much, that sound. And you get that into this changing it and modernizing it in a way. And I think it's fantastic. So the record top to bottom, I think is very well produced. It fits in this decade, and it's good for the genre. And for a debut record, damn, it's good. It's really, really good. Very, very impressed with it.
Yeah, Prelude to Ecstasy begins. I mean, it's a really short song.
It's
And
just
you
an
gotta,
intro.
yeah, it's a 41-minute record. It's a 12-song album, as we said. It is pretty perfectly spaced out for 2023, 2024, especially as a debut track. It could have gone a little bit shorter, but I definitely won't say this is one of those albums where I was like wishing for it to be shorter again, because
No, great
this
length.
feels new to pause. This feels new to me. This feels, fresh to me. Once we got into Burn Alive, I mean, Caesar on a TV screen is just phenomenal track. Like you really get fresh stuff every step you go down here, and you also get like the Last Dinner Party's experiment. I mean, I won't say experimenting, but this is when we're hearing them on the stage. Their lyricism is just really good because I'm getting backing vocals, I'm getting layering. It's just giving great. I think of Chase Petra, who we did on our Lyrics and Lego series, who they're on tour right now. Definitely
Yes.
check them out. But Hunter, who's the lead vocalist for Chase Petra, it's a really powerful, like strong, dominant female vocalist, and it's like, again, please don't take any like weird connotations to what I'm saying from that. But I mean, it's like it all works so well here now, and I love listening to it.
Yeah, you and me both. All right. So arbitrary scales. We do arbitrary scales every week.
Let's
Are
just
you okay?
we were kind of quick on it. I know we're taking a long time, but let's go to like the rest of the record really fast. You get to, I'm not even gonna pronounce song 7. Y'all be easy with that. When you get to like My Lady of Mercy, Portrait of a Dead Girl, Nothing Matters. You get a record that, again, I think it's a first record. You get to be kind of like a little bit fun here. I didn't really get onto, and I need to listen to it a little bit more to be fair, but I didn't really get onto like a specific theme or track here, like what's supposed to be happening. But that being said, every song on here seems to go together pretty well. Like it
It's
fits pretty
cohesive.
nicely. Yeah, it's definitely really cohesive. And yeah, we can definitely get to our fun arbitrary scale in just a moment, but I don't believe that this is something that either drags on or feels like it's missing something or feels like it's a few songs too long. Like I'm genuinely really impressed, like you said, that this is like a first proper LP coming from them. And I'm definitely excited to be like, okay, what are they going to come with after this? Once they're touring, once they kind of get these songs out there, once they hear what they like works live and what doesn't work live and what they want to see and what they want to evolve as artists. This is very I haven't really it, again, I want to pick new artists this week because I feel like we've been reviewing a lot of artists we've known, and I want to get some of that excitement on some like new blood, almost like
Yeah.
it's rookie week and we're looking at the draft because like we care about sports all of a sudden. And like this is how I feel like, oh, I definitely like these are like a top 5 draft pick, the last dinner party right here right now when it comes to rock and indie, as nebulous of a term that is. They're killing it and they're going to continue, and I just don't see anything but up from here for them.
You and me both. All right.
With
Arbitrary scale. We do.
in this podcast.
Yeah, we do arbitrary scales every week on this podcast because our review is our review, and we feel like that giving it a actual letter grade or a number grade just degrades our review. So that's why we created the arbitrary scale. So arbitrary scale this week are defunct National Hockey League teams. So there are a lot of fucking former NHL teams, and
this was inspired, by the way, by the fact that Atlanta is trying. How many times do we have to teach you this lesson, old man? Atlanta is trying yet again to get an expansion team for hockey.
They've already had 2 teams and they both fucked off. So they both got Canada'd, and then that one of them into Canada got Arizona'd. So yeah. All right. I'm gonna get APU. That's hilarious.
No, there's someone's trying to get me. I mean, everyone's trying to get me canceled in this chat. There's never mind. I'm not gonna make it worse for me. Anyways,
this is a solid California Golden Seals.
Wow, did they try to give Sacramento a team? How did that happen?
California Golden Seals, they were Oakland.
Well, that happened. Well, that makes sense.
The dude, and they had these gnarly uniforms where the dudes wore white skates. It was fucking awesome.
Snow Patrol.
But I think it was back in the Alameda County Coliseum Arena.
Oh yeah, that's the back in our day, it was the overstock.com.
It was the overstock.com arena, baby. Let's go.
And I think it's the Oracle. Was the Oracle arena, but like no one plays there anymore. So now it's just the BIP Dome.
The BIP Dome, yeah. Rip. Golden Seals. So multiple seals, the animal, which is great.
That is not TV. That's HBO.
Yeah. Their logo was kind of hard, and they were green and yellow. So there you go.
I'm gonna do. How do they get away with this? The Philadelphia Quakers, which is like Philly does. Philly, yeah, exactly. Philly deserves a team of some part of the basketball. Like, I'm sorry, not basketball. Some part of the sports, professional, even minor sports thing to be the Quakers, considering like how of a moderately important thing that is to American culture and how big that is in Pennsylvania. I'm surprised that's not a thing. I mean, like, Ottawa has the Senators, just like, I mean, damn, Washington D.C. and football would have done a lot better if they just called themselves a congressman, but like instead they had to go through a little song and dance. They had to go with the Redskins. Well, that's the Montreal Maroons. I'm not sure how we're doing there, so we'll get there. Anyways, we have another album to discuss.
Let's do it. All right.
Sean crawling here.
Right. All right. Next album review of the day. Servant of Gary's Way Bean. We got Penny. Oh my God. How are we doing? We got Penny the Butcher. Everybody Can't Go. 12 songs, 40 minutes long. This might be the first Griselda album, like group album I've ever listened to.
Can I,
Oh, dude, go
I
ahead.
can I say the fact? I mean, I think we may have done a Conway the Machine thing a lot, like
Or did we do
post
a West
2020.
Side Gun thing too?
I think we did. Yeah, I think
We
we've done
might
all
have.
three.
We
I think
might
we've
have
done all three now.
actually. So never mind. I think I remember that. Not liking
Yeah,
it, but you know.
yeah, and it was interesting. So I threw this on the album. I'm sorry, I threw this on the rundown, being like, okay, this is
Old head shit.
of the three artists we've heard on here. This is an artist we've heard of before for sure. This is old head shit for sure, and it's you know I don't know, especially after the Nicki Minaj Ice Spice stuff, the debate, Nicki Minaj, Ice Spice, Megan Thee Stallion, Latto, the debate between Yasin Bey, formerly known as Mos Def, and Drake about what is rap and what isn't. I was kind of honestly in the best mood possible to just like let myself be in the like sensory deprivation tank warm embrace of some like backpacker old head like rap stuff like this, like Benny the Butcher. And I just couldn't get past his old head shit. I
It,
really tried. I really tried,
I
man.
tried to.
I have
It's
not,
just
and like it has been a rare time on this podcast where I have been ready enough to take in with a straight face old head rap. And this record exhausted me, actually.
it felt long as fuck, right? Even though it's 12 songs, 40 minutes, which isn't that long of a
It's
record, it
respectable, yeah.
just it it dragged on. Some of these tracks, like right, Big Dog with Lil Wayne, that's 4 minutes 11 seconds. It just kept going and going, and I just felt like the album was flat. It didn't really have anything that stood out to me necessarily. It was just meh.
Pick an elderly person you don't respect that much and imagine them for 40 minutes and 22 seconds long telling you that you don't know what you're doing. And you see, back in our day, back when we had the so and so and the whoop de woo, this is how we did. That's exactly what this album is like.
Yeah,
From Jermaine's graduation, where you get some like weird throwaway line about, transgender bathrooms, till
yeah.
I
The fuck's
believe
that?
it's like Everybody Can't Go, the title track, or maybe it's Big Dog or Braun. I can't tell. But it's one of those first tracks where he's alluding to the fact that, like, oh, it's certain, like Trump winning for president again in 2024. And there's two ways of saying that. There's like the Dan from the Internet on Power Report way of saying that, which is like, political analysis. And I don't want this to happen, but I'm seeing how the Democrats are terrible and hashtag genocide Joe, etc. And so hashtag power report. I'm going to stop myself there. But like you can see all those other different things. Apparently I yelled a lot and people in the comments are talking about what I yelled
You
about.
got a 10-minute major and game misconduct.
Yeah. Yeah, I almost got hit with the Dwight Howard right there. So
No, you got hit with the Ron Artest. That's what you got hit with. You got hit with the Ron Artest running to the crowd, dog.
You mean the panda's friend?
The pandas. That's what.
Ni hao, Ron. Ni hao.
From Ron Artest to Meta World Peace to Panda's friend.
Ni hao, panda. Ni hao. Somehow one of the least racist things I've said on stream recently. Because it's literally factual. But like you get to that stuff and you go back into Conway the Machine's recent political history, where in 2023 he was talking about like his pro-Trump support, which is, I can't believe we're still talking about this in 2024. But if you're supporting Donald Trump as a rapper, that puts you on the side of Lil Pump, who just got a Trump tattoo on his thigh.
Who also made butterfly doors and did the whole Asian eyes thing and stuff. All right.
And that's the part where I cannot go ni hao. So like no, yeah, like you are, I think even Killer Mike, and more on that later, and Ice Cube are moving away from their pro-Trump positions at this point. I mean, they're still,
I mean,
what
it's
is
all
it?
about
7?
taxes.
They're still, yeah. It's all about taxes, and there's still 7 months for like many other rappers to disappoint us, and we know they will. But this stuff feels kind of old, and it makes it harder for me to take out the old headedness of this record, where it's like, this record is reminiscent of the most annoying elderly person in your life going, oh, back in my day, we did the whoop-de-whoop and the so-and-so, and if you want to do it like that, you gotta do it like
to school and snow and up hills and shit. Yeah. Had to ice skate to school.
It's Old Man Yells at Cloud, the album. And I, it's
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 so
sickening,
flat. It's not
and
a
it's
great album.
sad because like the features here are pretty good. Lil Wayne, Kyle
Snoop.
Banks, Snoop, Armani Caesar, Jadakiss, Babyface Way. You've got the Griselda Express with Conway, West Side Gun, Rick Hyde in there. And again, like it's kind of fitting
The
because
Griselda Express right there.
it is really fitting because West Side Gun and Conway the Machine have similarly been delivering old head back in my day school bus walk up the hill whoop de whoop style ass rap music for the past like not even since 2020 but honestly since like 2015. And so again they're still at it. I respect the fact they're still doing it, you know, on them Young Def Jam Recordings division of Universal Music Group. More on that later. But I don't know, man. Like in the state of the rap game right now,
This
where
is just
we're
gonna get
about to
scary.
we're about to drop our rap is dead take, and like we're gonna be right years from now, and it's just gonna like continue being right in time immemorial until something fixes from it. Rap is such a big genre because you got rap, you got hip hop, you got trap, you got SoundCloud, you got backpack, you got all this different stuff. And like as a backpacker, as like you know, as a pseudo backpacker, I'm good with my Vardir that came out last year with The Alchemist and
The
Earl
Alchemist, yeah.
Sweatshirt. Pretty much anytime The Alchemist or Madlib are going to be producing a record, which they've both consistently been doing every year at least for the past several years, I'm going to be fine. I don't need this. If these folks are going to come in, like even Yasin Bey, most def so and so, is not releasing a bunch of new records. But it is like it's surprising that these folks are releasing records. Yeah, again, like the Griselda Express and West Side Gun is on German leader from the 1940s wears Hermes number like 9 right now at this point, and he still hasn't really released anything that's like really notable or like worth value. I'm bored with this, especially considering the interesting stuff that rap music is doing elsewhere, you know?
Exactly. Yeah.
So
Again, like
it's a little sad.
it's gonna get buried by all the other stuff that's coming out. So it's just who's that supposed to mean? I don't know. That's what this is. All right.
Yes, arbitrary scale. We do arbitrary scales every week on Arbitrary Face because our review is our review. We told you how we felt about the album. Why tell you how we feel about it with a letter ranking system or a number ranking system that just reduces it to something that turns us into a news publication that lays off its employees and becomes a part of GQ? And instead, we'll tell you a ranking system based off of random things we choose every single week. This week it is defunct NHL teams. This week I am going to be choosing the Hartford Whalers.
Ooh, the Hurricanes. Well, Brass
Hurricane.
Bonanza. You know they played in a mall. The Hartford Whalers played in a mall.
I
That
do
was
know
their stadium.
I do
It's
know
great.
that.
And they had their own little Brass Bonanza, the little song.
I
It's a
like
whole
to
thing.
imagine the little like hall, like the Mall of America, but even worse, like in noted Vince Staples lore and also Audio Face lore, the Lakewood Mall, there's a little carousel thing by the Target at the very
yeah.
end where like kids would ride that stuff. Like I was never a fan of those things, maybe a little bit dizzy, but like you got to imagine a rink that's like barely 3 of those in like the mall right before like in between a Target and a Mervin's where like because this is the like we're talking about the 80s and the 90s, right? So yeah, like in between, yeah, I guess not Target, like I don't know, Jimco or Macy's or Robinson's May and then Mervin's. You gotta imagine in between those is a rink. And the homeboys handed down the ice. That's okay. I'm sorry. I am just finding out this. The Devils. What
What do you mean with the Devils? They're a team.
what oh, the New Jersey Devils? They played in Newark. I would
They do. They've played in Newark for their whole existence.
I would just self-delete. Newark is like the worst city on earth.
Yeah. Somehow they have a few cups. Yeah. That's where because they moved there in the 80s because it was the Colorado Rockies, but that was the WHA. It wasn't NHL, I don't think.
Thank God I'm a Golden Knights fan because I can't handle Tammy having more cups than me. Anyways.
You're catching up, though. You're catching up, though.
Yeah, fair.
But nothing beats the Winnipeg Jets moving to the Arizona Coyotes. The original Winnipeg Jets, not this new bullshit Winnipeg Jets. The OG
God,
one.
those Coyote jerseys went so hard.
Oh, the Kachina jerseys? But you know they play at Arizona State University's arena because they don't even have an arena. I fucking love hockey, man. Best sport. Best sport, worst league.
Arizona State University, the official university of half the people who have ever gone to college in the United States. Corn Pop for Press says backpack rap mecca is Seattle, which is you might have a point there actually.
Yeah, I could see that.
And also saying old man who yells at cloud the album is an amazing day. Occasionally we drop bars here. I'm saying occasionally we drop bars. Who is saying y'all actually know a lot about these albums that are coming here. I'm surprising. But yeah. Anyways,
right. Last album.
Last
album. We've got Plastic Death by Glass Beach. It is 13 songs an hour and 3 minutes long. I don't remember listening to Glass Beach.
I once again just threw this on here on the rundown to try to see if I can trip Sean over. But yeah, we did not listen to the first Glass Beach album, which is called the First Glass Beach album, which was 16
I kind of fuck with them for that. Like I can get on board with you naming your first record. This is our first record. The record.
Yeah, you could kind of call this the second record because the second was, remixes of other stuff that's sat out there. But here you have Plastic Death, which is an hour and 3 minutes long we had this, large conversation about indie. I'm not going to rehash it. You can watch the previous review that we just did of 2 previous reviews ago of Prelude to Ecstasy by The Last Dinner Party, when you can see the clip on youtube.com/audiofacepod. But yeah, this is definitely, as we're saying, there's a harder rock tinge to indie that we're at least getting from these 2 albums that we're reviewing early in 2024. So read that for what it is. But this is similarly in that, like hard.
This is definitely harder rock, like for sure. Because there's a couple songs, like there was one track I don't remember what it was because I only got to listen to this once, but it got into like a couple screamo themes. I was like, I can't.
Considering my colorful mood this week, I was really vibing with a lot of the screamo. I was really vibing to a lot of it.
No one. I feel for Bam's health.
Bam's got to take one of them post-seas FIFA breaks. Like, I'm sorry, for 2 weeks.
He's gonna retire. Like, no, you're gonna ask him PowerPoint. He's like, I can't, dog. And it's just gonna be that for like 4 years, and then it's just that's it. And then you're gonna reminisce about the golden days of when Bam used to send you fucking through balls and you'd score, and you all be happy. But those days are long gone.
It's okay. America's gonna keep invading Middle Eastern countries, and Bam can't help himself but be on the show. It'll be fine. Speaking of track number 10 on this track, the CIA. No, I'm not kidding, but yeah, you get a harder rock thing here. And I will not only also say harder rock, but I got some and feel free to virtually pimp slap me for what I'm about to say, but I got some early 2000s Radiohead vibes from a lot of this record.
I don't know about that.
I'm not gonna say as good as Hail to the Thief or In Rainbows, because that's a
Hail to the Thief and In Rainbows are like
again. I can feel Sean doing this. Sean dancing to Pimp Hand Strong, just over the visual recording, right? Like I can feel that on my nuts. But or is it? But because you got a lot of really weird syncopation. You got songs that didn't fit in the 4/4 time signature. You got you got some dude's wailing voice in the background.
Well, know what it reminds me of?
Okay,
is like emo rock of My Chemical Romance of the early aughts. Like that's what it really reminds me of. Even some oh god, what was that? I think it's called Zeitgeist from Smashing Pumpkins, their last decent record, where it was a little bit harder rock with it that I actually vibed with back then. I think it was 06, 07, around that time. Because I think it Slips Under the Door, where the guitar sounds a lot like a track from them. And I heard it and I was like, oh, that's interesting that they thought of that sound, because I really haven't heard
Zeitgeist, not Machina.
Machina, yeah, that's one
There we
with
go.
the Statue of Liberty, the album cover or whatever. So I think that's what it is. I have to find the name of it. It might not
Yeah.
be. It might not be on Spotify because they were having, for some reason, there was some weird things that happened with that record. I'll find it. But
That's
anyways,
I'll find it. You keep talking. That's the whole point of no, there wasn't no. It was called Zeitgeist. It is not on Spotify, which is why it was flipping me out. I recognize this. That's because Shepard Fairey made that. He made the album cover.
mm,
And yeah, I'm not sure necessarily why it
I don't
is not
remember
on
why it's not
Spotify, but
streaming.
you keep talking. I'll investigate.
Yeah, but anyways, so like I think the record is okay. I'm always gonna knock it down one level. Um um because all the songs are lowercase letters, and I will always yell at whoever. I don't care if it's all uppercase or all lowercase for titles for tracks. I will always be mad at that. Um I will, but I will give you +2, so a net neutral, because the 10th track is called the CIA, and I fucks with that one. So I you're at a net neutral for that. It's an interesting record to say the least. There's a lot of different sounds, definitely harder rock compared to some of the indie that we've been listening to. And again, a fresher sound in that regard, a little bit more eclectic. I feel like at times I can get kind of pulled into directions that I didn't necessarily want to be pulled in, especially kind of like towards the latter half of the record. You got songs like Puppy, The Killers, The CIA, which I like, but then comparing that to some of the harder stuff at the beginning, like Slip Under the Door, Guitar Song, so on and so forth, I'm like, they don't necessarily match up in that regard, but I like them as individual tracks. So like I could feel like, all right, it's not like as cohesive as I like it to be, and especially for being a longer record, I could feel that. And I'm sorry, Glass Beach, because you are not allowed to get you don't get a pass, because there's only two bands or two groups of people that get a pass for making a song that is longer than 6 minutes, possibly. That is Radiohead and Associates and Sigaros. And Comatose is 9 minutes and 49 seconds long. So I don't know what in the Yonzi you're thinking of, but that shit was long as hell. And
I'll be honest. I
I
like
like it. I don't mind it, but you're not allowed to do that.
I'm fine with it. I'm fine with it. Listen, I have a less like hard and fast rule as far as like who can do that kind of stuff. And I was really again like I liked most of what Glass Beach were throwing down. I felt that it had again, this could have been my very interesting mood this week, where it's just a little bit more on the rage side than usual. But
Than
it,
usual.
truly trust me, this was and I think people again, I think people watch this will realize there's like the very peaceful power is always within you, let's try to make a better world version of Dan, and then there's the warpath down, there's barely anything in between. I think everyone in the audience realizes what just happened. That was a special one, and I can eventually bring myself to rewatch that again, because there's going to be a lot of TikToks I can make out of that. That being said, I felt genuinely like not only did you have a really energetic, like hard, kind of like almost ragey album here, you had something that felt steeply in the traditions of alternative music. I mean, it felt like it was trying to go against the beaten path. It felt like it was trying to do things differently, even though it was like had that hard rock bend. So I was genuinely impressed by that. And I was genuinely impressed by like how it sounded really, I this one I came to listen to twice. It was kind of a similar thing where what was it? Yeah, it was the reverse thing. Last Dinner Party, I unfortunately only got to listen to like 1.5 times. Plastic Death I listened to twice because I was trying to not punch things. And this album was my was my respite. And so maybe for BAM's sake, I should have listened to this like 6 or 7 times. But again, Power Report was on Thursday. I really saw that, okay, they're not just, again, a lot of artists I really like. War on Drugs, Miles Kane, like a lot of alternative artists recently, but their songs, once you kind of like hear them, I get kind of where they're going, and I like how they're executed. But this record on first and second listen a lot of times felt unpredictable, which I'm a sick fuck Charlie Brown, and I love when music feels unpredictable. I love when
You're
I'm
the
listening
meme
to
of
it.
sickos. You're like, yes,
Yes, ha 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 ha, yes,
that's
that's
you. But
literally
I'm
me.
like,
I love that.
I want cohesion. Damn it. But
And you know,
but I
I
like
think
it.
there's enough cohesion here. I think
Yeah.
again, I I know you don't agree with this perfectly, and I don't know if this is like a perfect comparison. I don't know if I overstate it, but I think they do a Radiohead esque level of organized chaos where I'm fine with how everything landed here, while it also
Okay.
feels
I see
very
what you mean.
chaotic. I'm not saying they're
I can get
Radiohead.
you.
I'm not saying they're Radiohead. I'm not saying they're as
No,
good. I'm
no,
just saying that like
no. I get you.
for
Mean.
yeah, for a lot of other bands who have like tried to go out there and do a Radiohead style. I mean, you know, a lot of bands want to be Radiohead. A lot of pop indie bands on TikTok would love to be compared to Radiohead and to execute it. Believe me, I know them personally. Um, and you know, I don't think they're trying to be. They're not like doing obvious I'm calling to this, but they sound, you know, like they're trying to do similar interesting things with music. And they execute, you know, on an 80 to 90% hit rate. And so I really appreciate that. It's not Hail to the Thief and it's not In Rainbows. And again, Hail to the Thief's the best album ever made. But like, I really appreciate it for what has been made here again by a band that I had never heard before, that is generally new and hopefully making more things to come that might be like, you know, I would expect to be even better than this, which I already liked.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I pretty much said my piece. So,
Yes.
arbitrary scale. Let's do it.
Arbitrary scale. We'll do arbitrary scales every week on our face because our review is our review rather than tell you a letter ranking system, not this month, letter ranking system or a number ranking system. We will tell you exactly how we feel using a system that changes every single week. This week, it is going to be defunct hockey teams. Sean, what are you
NHL
going
teams.
with?
This is absolutely the Quebec Nordiques becoming your Colorado Avalanche. But my favorite thing, because not just because, you know, Colorado fan, that the fact that Quebec had a first overall pick and Lindros tried to literally tell them no, like straight up no. He went to Philly. They traded them the world to get the number 1 overall pick, and it ended up when they moved to Colorado, having the pieces that won Colorado Avalanche was Stanley Cup in their first fucking year when they left Quebec. And the French Canadians are still pissed to this day, and it makes me very happy.
I am going to go with the Hamilton Tigers, which
All right.
sounds like
It sounds made up, but it's not, and I love it.
it sounds like a movie or it sounds like a, you know, like the play Hamilton. But yeah, they're from Quebec. Lots of hockey's in Quebec. They're originally the Quebec Bulldogs, and they became the Hamilton Tigers from Hamilton, Ontario. And from there, they went nowhere because they're defunct, but they lasted 5 seasons in the 1920s. So, you know, they end up being bought by the New York Americans, which did they become the Rangers? Like, what's going on there?
No, Rangers original 6 team
Okay.
with the
Well, it was
least
the
amount of
first team in New
competition.
York City. It was
Sorry,
eclipsed
sorry,
by the
Emma.
second. Yes. I mean,
When
like they still
Pittsburgh
have
has
the
more
colors.
cups than you.
I mean, like they still have all the colors, which I don't think New York City gets to claim red, white, and blue. So that's a
No, they
little
don't.
wild.
The fuck? Like,
We'll do quick hits in just a moment, but there have been some comments I think you will love. Personally, what was it? Okay, not my favorite emo band. Sean sold me on this, but Sean sold me on this one. So
okay.
I guess like one of the songs, one of the albums we listened to was really good. Someone else said, I'm not into Radiohead. I can appreciate the history, but yeah, I can also, I think one of the interesting things, especially right now, is Radiohead's decision when it came to performing in Israel. I think like a lot of people are thinking about right now.
I'm just gonna just pop that out to Johnny's wife is Israeli and he has a conflict of interest. So that's
due
one of
to the
those. It's that's one of those like I am dating a Swiftie, so due to the conditions of my parole.
Can I just say, I love the fact that Swifties think she's going to perform at the Super Bowl, or like that's a vague possibility. And like, I'm sorry, it's Black History Month now.
Jay-Z owns that, bro. You know that ain't happening.
I'm sorry. Thanks for playing, dude. But now, anyways, Corn Pop for Press continues saying, we all got to have our molehills like Sean with capitalization.
Absolutely. That's a hill I will always die on this podcast. You can see I am consistent for years.
Felipe Auguste saying, I mix up Radiohead and the Talking Heads. I know I really like the stuff I've heard from one of Okay,
Well, I
we got
mean, Radiohead got their name from a Talking Heads song.
yes, that's very true.
Talking Heads
We,
go
we
hard too.
we got a
Very
lot
bad
of
talking.
spicy commentators in here. You gotta, if you want to pick a fight with Sean on Radiohead, you gotta start it when we start streaming, because right now he's tired and wants me to stop.
Well,
But
then the fact, well, I can read some of these too, where he goes, the Nordiques, hell yes. He goes, boo, Sean, I liked you for a little bit. I'm sorry, I'm a Colorado Avalanche fan, so I always support the demise of the Quebec Nordiques, but I do love their jerseys and their logos, as I have the reverse retro Avalanche Nordiques throwback jersey, which is my favorite jersey of all time. So I'll take it.
the classic jerseys go really hard. But we turn to the quick hits and we turn to the news. And I should have done this as like a big top story, because this is the big top story in music.
But I mean, yeah.
But really, I mean, we can do this fairly quickly though. So Universal Music Group, one of the largest, big record labels, is in a little bit of a dispute with TikTok, friend of the show. And they, TikTok's contract with all of the record labels has expired since, maybe either since TikTok existed or even when the app was Musically and it was, a little bit more music dance driven focused. But all those contracts are coming up and most of those contracts have been signed. But what you're getting, which has been, I think, fairly compared to the cable TV carriage disputes, when anytime a cable network, like in America, we have Comcast or Charter Spectrum, maybe in there's YouTube TV, maybe in England you have Sky. But any cable network starts arguing with a content producer, let's say a Disney or an NBC Comcast or any of these other ones, and they argue over the terms in which one company gives content to the other and how that other company distributes that content. Right now TikTok's been very interesting because on YouTube, I saw some comment that was like, YouTube poopers be like, first time. On YouTube, there's this whole thing where like people would make parody videos, and we got to really get like a speed run over, on the one hand, this is fair use. On the other hand, YouTube is owned by Google, which is owned by Alphabet, which is a very large company, and they really like to have good relationships with the tech companies, or inside with the music industry. And so even though it's fair use, we're going to restrict it on our platform. That's why, even though it is in every lawyer I've talked to's logical opinion that us using music samples of the songs we're talking about and the albums we're talking about for the non-YouTube versions makes total sense and is totally legal, we can't do it on YouTube because the moment we do, a little robot will tell us that the video has been taken down. So we've gone through these different eras. TikTok is interesting because it's honestly been a lot more free with music. Anyone can use any sound, and especially during the pandemic when a lot of people were paying attention to TikTok and dances and things like that, it was really helpful to have some of the artists on the Universal Music Group roster. If you might be thinking, okay, well, Universal Music Group, all these other labels have made deals with TikTok. How bad could it be that just this one record label has some artists missing? Well, some of those artists missing include Taylor Swift, Billie Eilish, Drake, Bad Bunny, The Weeknd, The Beatles, Olivia Rodrigo. So like all the big ones.
Everything. Right.
What is happening, which I'm sure Sean is nursing a semi just the thought, is that there's billions of TikTok videos that now have no audio. There's a bunch of people dancing on TikTok to no sound. It's very strange. You can just be scrolling on TikTok right now, and 1 out of every 5 TikToks just has no sound because that sound is owned by Universal Music Group.
That's hilarious. I didn't even know that. That's funny.
Yeah, and so it's still a dispute that's going on. I think it's very similar to like, again, Charter Spectrum takes off Disney, and then Disney's like, hey, if you want to watch Disney Channel and ESPN and all the other bunch of stuff we own, then you better harass your cable company. And then your cable company is like, hey, yo, we don't want to raise your prices because you complain about that to us all the time. So why don't you go ahead and complain to Disney to make sure they don't raise your prices? And they're both doing like a he said corporate thing. And so that's that's kind of the state of what's happening right now. But it is, to be fair, it's a weird situation where a lot of the musicians represented by Universal actually like what's happening that's going on. Usually musicians hate their label, but Universal Music and the head of Universal Music is like, I won't make this deal with TikTok because this deal doesn't come up again until 2025 or 2026 or 2027, right? And we're in the midst of the AI revolution, and we haven't even talked about AI Drake, AI Taylor Swift, AI whatever. And TikTok won't talk about that because they're a secretive company about their new features. And Universal Music Group is like, we're not falling for the okie doke this time. And so Universal, in a way, is standing up to make sure that their artists are protected by whatever weird trickery that TikTok and all the other platforms have up their sleeve, which they won't tell us, but we all can kind of understand has to do with artificial intelligence, which, as we've seen, just makes artists say and do and sound like they never have before. And honestly, it's like a worse version of it. Like there's the Scooter Braun version of Taylor Swift's albums, and then there's the Taylor versions, and then there's the weird, funky AI voices versions where it's like, look at Taylor Swift at the NFL game. It is so fun. Like we're about to live in hell, and it's gonna be really. I mean, it's weird right now in a quick kind of way. It's weird right now that like there's a lot of music that's not on TikTok, and I'm sure a lot of end users don't love that end dynamic of how that's working, but in a weird way, I actually don't mind that Universal Music's being like a hard ass right now, because it, like, otherwise their artists are just going to be like, it seems like, based on how the standard is, like they're going to be slaves to however TikTok decides to do AI.
Yeah, and like, I'm not on TikTok at all, so I have no dog in this fight. So, but it's just hilarious to me, right? With like, I mean, you get this with streaming services and other things of big huge corporations taking stuff away and big things. So you don't really. Kind of the crazy thing is you don't know exactly what is it that you actually own, right? And this is why I'm big on owning physical media, right? This is why I love collecting vinyls and stuff, not just because I'm a hipster, but because I have a physical version of something of like a band or something that I like. Like I like having a physical version of it and stuff. So that way, like, okay, it can't be taken away from me by some type of corporation off of a streaming service that I use, and I have to go up and find a different streaming service, or whatever, right? And all those things. So it just goes to show, like, it's kind of a crazy world where like you don't really own that much in that regard, especially in the digital media space and stuff. Like it's just consuming, but it's not owning anything in that regard. And that goes for artists too. Like they don't even own it, a lot of them. So it's mental with that.
Yeah, it's really troubling. And like, on the other hand, if you're not a major record label signed artist, you do look at TikTok as this accelerant, like this accelerator towards getting your music heard. Like there'd be no reason on God's green earth that Miles would ever be known but for the fact of TikTok. And he sits in a really interesting space because like he was just like starting to blow up at this point. And now with Taylor Swift and Drake and Olivia Rodrigo and Bad Bunny's music no longer accessible on TikTok, the next best thing are going to be everything else from the other labels, and then also all of the indie stuff that's climbing up right now. So you might start getting some white Zoomers dancing to Frederick Douglass. Like it's, we live in hell. Like I already explained, Sean, how Gen A and Zoomers are learning about the Boondocks through a TikTok dance, and like it's already broken his brain a little bit. But TikTok is betting on the idea that Universal Music Group needs TikTok more than TikTok needs UMG, and I think that's an interesting bet. And I honestly think it's an interesting bet. I honestly don't believe that it's going to like, materialize in any kind of way. Like, I think
Yeah.
ultimately one of these companies is going to cave. And I hope it's in the direction of more AI protections for artists, because I think that's just fair. But it's interesting to see, because I think TikTok can afford every artist, every musician I know right now wants to put their music on TikTok for a reason, right? So I think TikTok has that advantage uniquely compared to, a cable company.
Yeah. All right.
All right. And lastly, sorry,
Yeah.
Grammarinis.
I gotta wrap this up.
Yes. Homeboy's gotta not crash a plane tomorrow. Most of the Grammy Awards are over. I think we know everything but Album of the Year currently, and we might be able to understand Album of the Year like as we're doing this. But let's go to some of the nice ones. Best Progressive R&B Album went to SOS by SZA. That was up against Chanel Monáe and Black, and I think that's fair. Best R&B album overall went to Victoria Monet for Jaguar 2. That seemed to be making a lot of sense. For best rap performance, okay, so I think this is the biggest thing. Killer Mike swept all the rap categories. So that means best rap performance with for scientists and engineers featuring Flute Master Andre 3000, other Flute Master Future, and Aaron Allen Kane, beating out Coi Leray, Rich Flex by Drake and 21 Savage, Black Thought, and Baby Keem. And then you have Scientists and Engineers winning for Best Rap Song, and then Michael by Killer Mike winning for Best Rap Album. If you're listening to Audio Face last year, you will know that Michael by Killer Mike was a rather mediocre record.
It was not that great.
Yeah.
It was okay.
It was definitely not,
especially compared to like Run the Jewels and everything else. Like, it's not like nearly the quality of that.
Well, yeah, I think Killer Mike has produced things even without LP. So yeah, all the Run the Jewels records 1 through 4, and then RAP Music that was released as like a precursor to Run the Jewels that was produced by LP in the early 2010s. I think that I think that Killer Mike has done better work, and that this wasn't it. I've said this in the Audio Face chat, and I've also said this to Sean. I think, especially because I now understand Hollywood, this is purely because Killer Mike has an incredible agent.
Absolutely. It's all about agents. Like, all of these awards, right? Like, half of these people don't deserve them. And I mean, the fact that Gorillaz got nominated for any type of award for Cracker Island just shows you that, it's all about publicizing and all about agents and just
it's publicity. It's about
that's why the Grammys suck. Like, it's just that's why we made this podcast, right? So to actually review and talk about the albums, because the fact that, one of the heads of the Grammys was saying, hey, we even listen to even a full album. Like, that's your one job. You have one fucking job. Listen to music and critique it and to award it. And you go, oh my God, it's so hard what we do. And we even listen to a whole album. So it's like,
sometimes we even have to put ourselves through listening to an entire album in order to decide. It's like,
that's how you know it's bullshit. That's how you know, like, they just get given these things, these people get thrown on, and they're like, oh, it's this, right? So
we've seen this dynamic in a number of different ways. I mean, first of all, on Audio Face, if we haven't listened to an album, we will tell you. If we've only listened to an album once, we will tell you. Otherwise, we'll listen to an album 2+ times because we want to tell you how we feel about an album. And then at the end of the year, we wrap all those albums together and we tell you what are the best in each genre, oftentimes what are the worst altogether, and then we make some funny categories every year and there once in a while.
Yeah.
And then I end up on a mugshot poster, and so it's kind of fun. Other ones, we have Best Producer for Jack Antonoff, which is not incredibly surprising. Best Pop Solo Performance for Miley Cyrus. Best Pop Vocal Album by Midnights by Taylor Swift. On the dance,
and she won the album of the year was done right now, and it was Midnights.
Hell yeah. Good on you, Sean. So yeah, that was against John Baptiste, World Music Radio, Boy Genius, The Record, Endless Summer Vacation by Miley Cyrus, Chanel Monáe, Asia Pleasure, Ocean Boulevard, Lana Del Rey, Guts by Olivia Rodrigo, and SOS by SZA, Midnights by Taylor Swift, One Dot. Yeah, I mean, I think that's fine. The main reason I'm sighing is just because even though I absolutely don't care, the Super Bowl next week is going to be insufferable.
Yeah, it is.
It's going to be really hard to watch. This is why I'm glad I'm a basketball and a hockey fan. And that's just why Sean is, glad but somewhat regretful of the fact that he's made me a hockey fan. Golden Knights victory tour.
I'll give you a year. You deserve it. I'll allow it.
Thank you.
I got the
Gotta
gloat
get,
right before, so it's doing.
gotta get something from last year. But I think I'll also give a shout out to Kyle, who has been, in some ways kind of like, the annoying ankle bitey type thing about Fred again and Actual Life 3 and his overall just like dominance of the EDM space. And on the one hand, I don't
I think
think the
it's just
Grammys,
the
if
state of
anything,
EDM too.
yeah, if anything, I think the Grammys are like the direct opposite of like what is a tastemaker for any genre. But I think electronic music is definitely like one of the more interesting cases in that. And Fred again came in really well with best dance electronic recording for Rumble. And then Actual Life 3, Fred again won best dance electronic album. And so I think, I think electronic music was very interesting. I think it's going to be very, very, very interesting this year with a Justice record and a couple of other ones. But I think Fred again last year did a really phenomenal job with what he was doing. Like I think like
I think it was
yeah, with the
decent.
genre he
Good
was getting
record.
with, yeah, I have nothing bad to say. The last one I want to see, I don't know if you can get to this before me, and then Sean will be free off the plantation, the dantation, if you will. But it's who won Best New Artist?
Best new artist. I could probably find it.
Victoria Monet. Victoria Monet.
Yeah, just say Victoria Monet.
I'm just gonna like do a sneak diss right here as we're ending the show. Victoria Monet is every white liberal's favorite R&B artist, which is not a bad thing. But like Lizzo had the same effect, right? Which is like the white New York Times commentary elite kind of chose this artist and not the culture and not the people. I think Victoria Monet is talented. I think she created like a great record.
Yeah.
Right? I just don't. I think that like
the hype is
PR and the New York Times and
exactly.
the Washington Post and like all the Pitchfork and like all these.
It's the media.
It's Black History Month. Fuck it. All these white people are trying to talk on R&B, and I'm starting to get a little bit Louis Farrakhan. I'm like, is that a C word in Black people's business? Are we really about to go there? All right. So again, I'm in the penalty box. I'm gonna stop right now. This has been Audio Face, but the Grammys suck, and this is Audio Face.
Thank you for listening.
Before we finish, sorry, super last thing. I have a couple comments to get through. Someone said, Dan, are you cranking hog, bro? No, I'm at a standing desk and occasionally like lifting my legs a little bit. So, and maybe like lowering my pants because they're riding up this is too much information. Corn fought per press before he went to bed. And thank you for watching. Says, I never thought about it, but AI is really like low rent YouTube poop versions of the real thing. Yeah, it really clicked with me when people were like, YouTube poop artists looking at like people who made YouTube poops in like the early 2000s looking at people on TikTok getting their videos taken down for copyright, and they're like, first time. Mm-hmm. And then Felipe says, what if everyone gets together and makes AI to generate and watch content and exploit the algorithm that TikTok uses to pay people, and and it ends up redistributing money from TikTok to creators using AI? That's a little bit of a roundabout way of describing it, but I think that can happen. And I think that's kind of like what people are worrying about, that like AI art and artist. So, I mean, I know, Felipe, you get it's a joke. I'm sorry. But I mean, even taking it seriously, because a lot of people take it seriously, AI replacing people is like the scariest thing that people don't know how to like point to exactly, because it's like a weird nebulous thing, but that's the thing that people are actually afraid of. So of course people don't want that, but that's what we're here for. Thank you, Corn Pop, and thank you, Philippe, and thank you for the guy accusing me of cranking on stream. For
Notorious crank.
Notorious crank. This has been Audio Face. What does it mean to play Sean to bed?
Well, thank you for listening to Audio Face. You can find all of our stuff on audioface.show. That's all our links and all the gubs. youtube.com/audiofacepod for all of that as well, where you can go and watch clips, album reviews, all that stuff. And we're better than goddamn Grammys. So just listen to us.
Way better than the Grammys. And also substantially better than Killer Mike. And while we're substantially better than Killer Mike, and we're substantially better than Benny the Butcher and Conway the Machine and all of the Sega Genesis, whatever they call them, we are definitely
Zelda.
The the Nintendo GameCube, whatever. We're better than all of them, and most of all, we are the best music.
Are you reverse running right now? Is that what's going on? Doesn't mean anything.
No, I mean, I have the music playing right now, so I was gonna, what does it mean to play us out? It's like at the Grammys when you're talking too long and the music slowly starts to slow and fade, and so I'm doing that to me for your sake. This is an audio face. Cheers.